All right, welcome to another deep dive with us. This time we're going through some pretty intense stuff. Isaiah chapter 7 through 9.
Oh, yeah, those are some very vivid chapters.
Yeah, so you've got excerpts from those chapters in your show notes. And we're talking prophecies and warnings to the kingdoms of Judah and Israel. All this is happening as the Assyrian Empire is kind of looming in the background.
Yeah, a very volatile time in the ancient Near East. Lots of empires clashing.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that Game of Thrones feel where you've got, these different power players kind of vying for control. But instead of dragons, we've got prophets.
Yeah, and a lot more chariots.
Yeah, a lot more chariots, exactly. So we're starting off in chapter 7, and Aram and Israel have basically ganged up. And they've got Jerusalem in their sights.
They did. It was kind of the beginning of the end for the northern kingdom of Israel, this alliance with Aram against Judah.
Yeah, so King Ahaz and the people of Judah, they are understandably freaking out. Isaiah compares them to trees shaking in the wind. So you get this real sense of panic.
Yeah, it was a time of great upheaval and uncertainty.
And that's where Isaiah steps in. But instead of offering comfort, he throws in this image of smoldering logs.
Right.
Like, what's that all about?
He's using very stark imagery to kind of wake up the people and say, these empires that you're afraid of, they're burned out. Their power is fading.
Wow. That's not what I would have expected.
Yeah, it's a message of hope, but couched in very symbolic and somewhat disturbing language.
Okay, so then God tells Ahaz, hey, ask for a sign. Prove to you that everything will be all right. But Ahaz says, nah, I'm good. What?
Nah.
Talk about a missed opportunity.
It's really a puzzling moment in the text. And scholars have debated for centuries. What exactly is going on in Ahaz's mind?
Yeah.
Is it false piety? Is he afraid of testing God?
Yeah.
Or does he really just have that much faith?
Yeah.
It's hard to know.
But either way, it's interesting because God basically says, okay, well, I'm going to give you a sign anyway. And it's a big one. A virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and she will name him Emmanuel.
Right. That's Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14. One of the most famous and debated verses in all of Scripture.
Yeah, I can see why. This is huge.
Yeah, and it speaks on multiple levels.
Yeah.
You have the immediate context of it being a sign to Ahaz that God is with his people. But it also points forward to the ultimate fulfillment in the birth of Jesus.
Yeah, so you've got those ripples through time. But then to make things even more interesting, we get this detail about Emmanuel's diet. Curds and honey. What's up with that?
Yeah, it sounds a little strange.
Yeah.
But in the ancient world, curds and honey were basically like survival food.
Oh.
Very simple. No frills.
Okay.
Sustenance.
So it's almost like saying, even when things get rough, you'll have what you need.
Exactly. God will provide.
Okay, so we've got a king in crisis, a mysterious refusal of a sign, and a prophecy that kind of points toward this future hope. Where do we go from here?
Well, things are about to get
A
little apocalyptic.
Oh, boy. I was afraid you were going to say that.
Yeah.
So what's coming next?
We've got flies and bees.
Flies and bees.
From Egypt, from Assyria,
Oh, no.
and a razor, hired to shave the land bare.
Okay, that sounds like complete and utter devastation.
It is. It's Isaiah's way of saying judgment is coming, and it's going to be thorough.
And it's connected to those empires.
Yes. The very empires that Ahaz was afraid of will become the instruments of God's judgment.
Wow. So they're the razor.
They are the razor.
To shave the land bare. So that to really drive the point home, even Isaiah's own son becomes this kind of walking, talking prophecy.
Yeah. Poor Marshal al-Hashbaz.
What a name.
What a name. It means speed the spoil, hurry the plunder.
So it's like Isaiah saying, okay, this is not a joke. The Assyrian invasion is going to be swift. It's going to be brutal.
Yeah.
It's going to be thorough.
Yeah, and it's a name that was struck fear into the hearts of the people.
I can only imagine. So with all this talk of doom and gloom, is there any hope left?
Well, we're going to find out as we move into chapter 8. But that's a deep dive for another day.
All right, so listeners, make sure to join us for part 2 as we uncover the next layer of Isaiah's message. You definitely won't want to miss it. Welcome back to our deep dive into Isaiah. We're picking up in chapter 8. And last time things got pretty intense. Prophecies of invasion, the land about to be overrun. Talk about a cliffhanger.
It's definitely not light reading. But even amidst those warnings, there was that glimmer of hope.
Right.
The reminder that God was still with his people.
Yeah, like those curds and honey, basic survival food, but also a symbol of God's provision even when things are falling apart. So as we move into chapter 8, are we still in that duck and cover zone?
Well, the warnings continue, but there's a shift. Isaiah starts talking about the Euphrates River.
Oh, yeah, I remember that from history class.
Yeah, it was the lifeblood of ancient Mesopotamia.
But it could also flood and wreck everything.
Exactly. And Isaiah uses that image to describe God's power.
So it's like he's saying, this Assyrian invasion is a flood of judgment, but I'm the one controlling the waters.
That's a great way to put it. It's a warning.
Yeah.
But also a reminder that God is ultimately in charge.
Even when things seem completely out of control.
Right.
Okay, so then Isaiah talks about trusting in God alone, not in political alliances or shady occult practices. It's like he's calling out those who are putting their faith in the wrong things.
Yeah, it's a direct challenge to the people who are looking for security in all the wrong places.
Which is understandable when you're facing a terrifying empire like Assyria.
Of course.
Okay.
But Isaiah is saying, nope, God is the only true source of strength.
So amidst all this judgment,
There's also this idea of a believing remnant.
a believing remnant.
Yeah, those who stay faithful to God, they'll make it through, like a light shining in the darkness.
Okay, so a glimmer of hope emerges. But then we hit this weird line about stumbling over God, calling him a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense.
Right, Isaiah 8.14.
What is that all about?
That's one of those lines that really makes you stop and think.
It does.
It's saying that God can be both a source of salvation and judgment. It all depends on how people respond to him.
So for some, God is a safe haven, a source of strength. But for others, he's an obstacle.
Precisely.
That's a powerful image.
It is. And it brings us to the end of chapter 8, leaving us with this mix of warning, challenge, and that sliver of hope.
So the roller coaster ride continues, but where does it take us next? Does chapter 9 offer a smoother ride, or are we in for more twists and turns?
Well, let's just say that chapter 9 starts with a pretty bold declaration. But there will be no more gloom for her who is in anguish.
Okay, I definitely need some of that. No more gloom. Where is this light shining from?
Well, the text mentions Zebulun, Naphtali,
Galilee.
areas that would become very significant in the future.
Especially for those who follow Jesus.
Right. It's like Isaiah is giving us a glimpse
Yeah.
of a much bigger story unfolding.
So we're connecting dots across time here. I like it. And the imagery shifts too, right? Instead of wasteland and destruction, we get celebrations, harvests, the dividing of spoil.
It's a complete reversal from the previous chapters.
Like a total 180. Okay, so this is where we get to that famous passage about the birth of a child, right? The one with all the titles.
You got it. For a child will be born to us, a son will be given to us. And then it goes on to list all these incredible names.
Yeah.
Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace.
It's mind-blowing. These names aren't just poetic flourishes. They're pointing to something really significant.
They are. They point to a future king, a descendant of David, who will establish God's reign of peace and justice.
And the passage goes on to say that there will be no end to the increase of his government or peace.
Right. It's a hope that extends far beyond the immediate crisis. This is big.
It is.
So after all the doom and gloom, we're left with this incredible vision of hope. But something tells me there's more to the story. What happens next? Does this newfound optimism stick around? Or are there more challenges waiting around the corner? Well, we'll have to pick that up in the final part of our deep dive.
All right, listeners, you'll definitely want to join us for part 3 as we uncover the last layer of Isaiah's message. It's going to be epic. All right, so we're back for the final part of our Isaiah deep dive, chapters 7 through 9. We've seen political drama, prophecies of doom, glimmers of hope, even a baby with a mouthful of a name destined for greatness.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. And as we wrap up with the end of chapter 9, it feels like all those threads are coming together.
Yeah. So we ended last time on a high note. No more gloom for those in anguish. This promise of light breaking through the darkness. But you hinted that things might get a bit complicated. What's going on?
Well, despite all the warnings, all the prophecies of invasion and destruction, the people of Israel and Judah, they're kind of missing the point.
Seriously, after all that.
Yeah. They're still stuck in their old ways. Isaiah calls them out for their pride and arrogance.
Okay, what are they doing this time?
Instead of rebuilding with humility, they're bragging about using expensive cedar wood.
Oh, wow. So they're more concerned with appearances than actual change.
It seems that way. Like they're saying, look at us, we're back and better than ever. But their hearts aren't really in it.
They haven't learned the lesson.
No. It's that tragic cycle. Sin judgment and a refusal to truly repent.
And how does God respond to this?
Well, it's definitely not a time for celebration. Isaiah describes God cutting off the head and tail of Israel.
That sounds intense.
It is. It's a metaphor for removing their leadership and those who are spreading false teachings.
So even with the promise of a future king, a time of peace, there's still accountability for their actions.
Absolutely.
And the imagery gets even stronger.
Yeah, Isaiah compares their wickedness to a fire, consuming everything in its path.
It's a powerful reminder that our choices have consequences. But amidst all this judgment, where's that glimmer of hope we saw earlier? Is it completely gone?
Here's the amazing thing. Even in the midst of judgment, even when it feels like all hope is lost, Isaiah keeps pointing towards that future king, that descendant of David who will bring true peace and justice.
So it's like a thread of gold running through a tapestry of darkness.
You got it. It's a reminder that God's plan for redemption, for a renewed creation, it can't be stopped.
Even when humans mess up.
Even when they turn away from him, he's still working to bring about his ultimate purpose.
So it's not a simple happily ever after ending. It's more complex, more realistic, and ultimately even more hopeful.
I agree.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with the sense of awe. We've journeyed through these ancient prophecies, these powerful words that have resonated through centuries.
And it's amazing how relevant they still are today.
Yeah, we may not be facing the Assyrian Empire, but we face our own challenges, our own temptations to turn away from God.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that we're all part of this bigger story, this ongoing drama of sin, judgment, and redemption.
And we have a choice.
Yes, we do.
We can choose to ignore the warnings, to repeat the mistakes of the past, or we can choose to learn from them, to turn toward God, and to be part of that story of hope and renewal that Isaiah so beautifully paints.
That's a great way to put it.
So to everyone listening, take some time to reflect on these chapters from Isaiah. See how they speak to your own life, your own struggles, your own hopes for the future.
It's been a privilege unpacking these incredible prophecies with you. May Isaiah's words continue to challenge and inspire us as we navigate our own journeys.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.